Obrigado.
Okay, well, let me just make sure. Is the microphone on? Oh, it is on. So now the question is, let me just get it right so you can hear me. The people in the very back, can you hear me? Not really. Okay, so let's try this one. Maybe it works better. Can you hear me in the back? No, but there's still a further...
You can turn on.
There's a further row all the way in the back. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. I'll be speaking in English. We have a translator here. How many people understand basic English? Because I speak in pretty simple English. So if you understand basic English, raise your hand. Is there anybody who would like to sit next to the translator? No? Okay. If I use any words which are not easily understandable, I will just ask you to translate them. Would you like to pull up a chair over here? Yeah. Okay. You just put it by the chair. Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me. I only saw a little bit of your city today, but it's obviously very beautiful. I don't usually get to see streets with cobblestones. How do you say cobblestones?
Calçada portuguesa.
So it's always a special pleasure, though I noticed that the cars have a little bit of difficulty on the cobblestones. So maybe in those streets people should still be riding horses. One of the curious things about traveling is that you come even to relatively small cities and even sometimes little towns around the world, and there's always a group of people, and not a small group of people, who are interested in the question of Palestine. And that's always a subject of some curiosity. Why is that? Because the world is filled with so many problems. I was just looking in a store at a cover of a magazine which had the horrible Mr. Sarkozy on it, and it talked about the rise of the new far right in Europe. And yesterday, over dinner, people were talking about the terrible treatment of the gypsies, the Roma, in Europe. And everywhere you turn, there are problems, big problems. But people still have this special interest in a little people in a tiny, tiny little place in the world. And many people wonder why is that. One of the most common questions I get from people who are a little bit suspicious about this interest in Palestine, they always ask, why do you think they're so interested in the Palestinians? And there's always an implication, which, as I'm sure you understand, is it must be because of anti-Semitism. It must be because of dislike of Jews. Otherwise, why is it that you come on a beautiful afternoon, a working day, into Porto, Portugal, and in a beautiful art museum, people come to talk about Palestine. It doesn't make sense unless you all are here because you hate Jews. Then it makes a little more sense. But one of the things that I'm pretty convinced of looking at your faces and traveling enough is that it's really not about Jews. People don't care very much about who the oppressor is. Most people are here because they care about who is being oppressed. There's something about the situation of the Palestinians which everybody is able to identify with, because there's something about their life experience which everybody can grasp or feel a part of. One of the reasons is because they're so small, such a small people, and they're up against such a big power, and not just Israel, but also up against the United States. Another reason is because their cause is easily understandable. People are trying to drive them from their homes. That's not very difficult to understand. And another reason I think is when we were coming here by car, one of the women who was driving us here, she said she likes the city of Porto because it's on a human scale. It's not like New York City where the buildings reach up into the stars. And I think one of the reasons people feel close to Palestine is because it is on a human scale. It's small. You can go from one end to the other in a few hours. And also you feel as if, because it's small, you actually feel as if you can make a difference. If you're in somewhere like India, where the problems are so terrible, but it's hard to believe that one person, 10 persons, 1,000 people, or even 10,000 people can make much of a difference. But in the case of Palestine, you go there, you meet the villagers, you see the whole geography, it's within the grasp of your hand, and you feel like, if I work hard enough, I try hard enough, I commit myself enough, I can actually make a difference here, which is another reason why I think people feel a certain closeness to it. But more and more I could say that I reject the interpretation that people are interested in Palestine because it's Jews who are doing the dirty work in this case. I don't really think that's a convincing explanation. Now, there may be in this audience some closet Nazis who are disappointed in my interpretation, but I think most of you are here for the best of reasons and the most noble aspects of what it means to be human. I'm going to be speaking this afternoon basically about where we're coming from, where we are now, and where we're headed, which means I'm going to look at what happened in Gaza, then look at what happened on the Mavi Marmara, the Turkish vessel, and then look at where things are going. And unfortunately, I think things are going now in a much worse direction than in a very long time. I said I would begin with what happened in Gaza in 2008.